Brush and pencil tools. This is the brush tool, and it allows us to paint the desired strokes using the foreground color. It creates soft strokes and is mostly used in artworks. This is the brush tool, and its shortcut key is the letter B. Now select the tool and let's paint. You should note as you click and draw that you can see the soft strokes being applied. The available options are Brush Presets. Where you click on this small inverted triangle, you get the Brush Preset Picker, where you adjust the diameter and hardness by moving its sliders. Then if you click on New Preset Icons, you get the Selected Brush Name dialog box, where you can rename the brush. Here, when you click on the Brush Flyout menu, you can customize the brush presets by selecting these options in this list. You can customize a brush by using the Preset Manager option, like naming and saving the brush. Then you should see the Load Brushes option, where it helps us load the downloaded brushes or newly created brushes to your list. You can also save the brush in any folder using this Save option, and you'll learn about these in detail in the Preset Manager. You can also replace the current brush with a new set of brushes using the Replace Brushes option. Photoshop provides you with many types of brushes in the preset options, such as assorted, basic, calligraphic, drop shadow, and so forth. When you want to select any particular brush set, just select the desired brush in the list, and now a dialog box appears requiring you to replace the current brushes. For that, you can click on the Append option, so that the selected brush set gets stored below the existing ones. Now you can click on the document to deselect the brush presets. When you click on the Mode option, you should change the modes for the brushes, and you'll learn all about those in blending modes. This Opacity option lets us set the transparency of the color. When you click on the option and move the slider to the left or right, the Flow option sets the rate of color, which gets applied as you paint a stroke. Okay, let's try the Flow option by clicking on it and dragging the slider towards the left. Now click and paint in the document. There you go, you're able to see those changes. Airbrush option will perform continuous painting in a single long click on the same place. Just click and enable this option, and then do a long click on the mouse, where the brush is applied on top of another, and you should see it now. Pencil tool. Both brush and pencil tool are drawing tools, but brush creates soft strokes while pencil tool creates hard strokes, and the edges are crispy. It again is a hidden tool within brush tool, and its shortcut key also the letter B. This is pencil tool, and as you select the tool you can see the corresponding options. They are similar to brush tool except the auto erase option. Auto erase option will paint the background color over the foreground color. Let's do some illustration using pencil tool. Click and drag the cursor in the document or in an image. Let's check the auto erase option by enabling it. Try some painting over it. Yes, it paints the background color on the foreground color strokes. A useful tip for you here: if you'd like to draw a straight line, then hold the Shift key and simply click and drag the tool. And here you get a straight line. Thus you can paint soft and hard edge strokes using the brush and the pencil tool. Gradient and Paint Bucket tool. Gradient tool. A gradient can be defined as a mixture of colors which are blended smoothly. This is the gradient tool, and it creates a gradient blend between two or more colors. And you can access this tool by hitting the G key as a shortcut. Now select the tool, and the options you obtain are Gradient Editor, Types of Gradient, Mode, Opacity, Reverse, Dither, and Transparency. Gradient Editor allows us to edit the default gradients, or you can create your own new gradient. When you click on the Gradient Editor, here appears a panel with its options. You can specify a name for the new or selected gradients. You can change the gradient type as solid or noise. Then increase or decrease the smoothness option by clicking on it and dragging its slider. You can adjust the gradient variation by moving these color stop sliders. And you can also add color stop sliders, as many as you want, by clicking below the gradient map. If you wish to change the colors, then click on the color stop sliders. And below you should see the color icon, where you can click on it and choose a color from the color picker. As you move the color stop slider, the location value varies. If you wish to add this gradient, specify a name, and then click on the New option. The new gradient is now added to the presets. Then if you want to remove the gradient from the preset, just simply right-click on the gradient and select Delete Gradient. You can also rename the gradient and create a new gradient, as you saw before. You can load the download gradients using the Load option, and also save the current gradient in any other file using the Save option. Select any of the gradients from the preset, and then click OK. Now it's ready to use. Let's continue with the other options. And here are the gradient types: linear, radial, angled, reflected, and diamond. Blend mode and opacity options can be set according to your needs. The reverse option will reverse the order of colors in the gradients. As you click and enable this option, you should see the change in the gradient editor. If you enable the dither option, it will smooth blending with less banding. Then finally you have the transparency option, and here transparency is blended to the gradient. Here is a selection created by the rectangular marquee tool. It lets us use any one type of gradient to it. Simply click and drag and then release the cursor. Now the gradient is being applied to the selection. Hence, you can use the default gradients or create a new one and apply them to the image or objects in an image. Next up, let's see how to fill a color using the Paint Bucket tool. The Paint Bucket tool allows us to fill color in the selection or in an image with the help of foreground color in the toolbar. It is a hidden tool under Gradient tool. Now select the tool and the options are Source for the fill area, Mode, Opacity, Tolerance, Anti-alias, Contiguous, and All layers. When you click on the Source for the fill area option, it can be as foreground color or a pattern, which can be selected as you need. But now select the foreground color option. You're much more familiar with the rest of the options from the previous tutorials. You can create a new document in Photoshop. To open a new document, go to the File menu, and then click on the New option, and set the parameters as you need in the New dialog box. Now select the rectangular marquee tool. Click and drag the cursor to draw a selection. Then select the Paint Bucket tool, and click on the selection to fill the color in it. Note the foreground color is being applied in the selection. Let's change the Paint Bucket to a pattern. As you click on the Source option, you can select the pattern. Then you get the options of it over here. If you click on it and select a pattern to fill in the selection. After selecting the pattern, click on the selection to fill it. Using Paint Buckets, you can fill a color as well as a pattern in the selection or a document. Thus, you can apply multicolor gradients as well as fill the selection with a desired color or pattern with Gradients and Paint Bucket tool, respectively. Blur, Sharpen, and Smudge tools. Let's learn about the Blur, Sharpen, and Smudge tools, as their names themselves say about them, and their functions in Photoshop. Blur tool. First off, we'll start with the Blur tool. This tool enables us to reduce the focus and softens the image, and it comes under Retouching tools. Using this tool, you can remove small facial blemishes in a portrait. Let's learn more about this tool and its practical applications. Here's an image. Go and select the Blur tool from the toolbar. And now you can see the brush cursor and also the corresponding options of this tool in the option bar. Alright friend, one very important note for you here in this Blur tool. Before starting working with it, make sure that you select the proper options from the options bar. Here, when you click on the brush options, it lets us choose a brush, and you can also adjust the diameter and hardness by moving the sliders. The changes which you have made will be applied to the brush immediately. Then you should find the Mode option, and when you click on it, you can select any mode from these presets. You can also adjust the depth of the brush using the Strength option. When you click on it, you should see the slider. If you click and drag the slider to the left or right, the strength will increase or decrease, and you can see how it is for your needs in your illustration. Here you find the Sample All Layers option, which takes the sample from all the layers. Now the tool is ready to paint in an image to reduce the detail of any particular area in an image. Let me just click and drag the cursor on the image to blur this area. If you don't attain your target, try it once more by repeating the action. Alright, next up is the Sharpen tool. The Sharpen tool enables us to create and refine a sharp edge of an appropriate shape or in any part of an image. This tool is hidden in the Blur tool. Now you can select the Sharpen tool and the options are similar to that of the Blur tool. After selecting the tool, start painting it in the image or in an area which you want to use it. Click and drag the cursor wherever you need. As you click and drag the cursor, you should find the image becoming sharper. Please note, if you use this tool more than twice in a particular area, it gives a pixelated, crispy effect, which causes a dumb effect. So try to avoid it to get a sharp, appealing image. The options of this tool are similar to the Blur tool. Finally, on to the Smudge tool. Smudge tool is a special tool, which gives an effect done in a wet paint, like dragging a finger on it. The tool enables us to mix two or more colors in a blur painting effect. It is also a hidden tool in the Blur tool. Right then, now let's select the tool and paint it on the image. Yeah, you get an effect of mixing colors in a blur painting effect. It's a cool option to get such special effect for an artwork. I guess the options are well known for you, except maybe the finger painting option. Let's experiment it in the image by enabling this option. This option will use the foreground color in the beginning of each stroke, and then blends with the other color. Now click and start painting with the tool in the image. Note the finger painting effect, and you can find a great difference using this option. Hence, you can paint different strokes using these tools to have creative effects in an image. Dodge, Burn, and Sponge tools. Let's discuss the Dodge, Burn, and Sponge tools. These tools come under Retouching tools. Let's start up with the Dodge tool. This tool lets us lighten the image, or in a technical frame, it increases the brightness in the image. The shortcut key is the letter O. Now here you have a great image to show you this tool. Now select the tool and you can see the corresponding options in the option bar. You can click and paint over the image. As you paint, you'll view the details in the image appear brighter than before. You move on to the options of this tool, and they are Brush Presets, Range, Exposure, Airbrush Capabilities, and finally, Protect Tones. Now you're pretty familiar with the brush option, so let's take a look at the rest. Under Range, you can set its option as Shadows, Midtones, and Highlights. Shadows option will change the dark areas in an image. The midtones will change the middle range of the gray portions. And the Highlights option will act in the light areas. Depending on the need of the photography, we could use corresponding settings. The Exposure option will control the depth of the tool, and it can be set appropriate to your needs. Airbrush Capabilities option will set the brush as an airbrush type. And then finally, going to Protect Tones option, it helps us protect the color of an image. An important note for you, make sure that this option is always on whenever you work in this tool, because it protects the color in the image. You can simply play around with the options of the tool in order to experiment on your own. Next up, the Burn tool. The Burn tool allows us to darken the particular areas where it is needed in an image. It also has the same options as the Dodge tool, and it's also hidden in it. Let's change the parameters of their options and try some painting in the image. As we use this tool, you'll see the differences. It darkens the area of an image. Last but not least, you have the Smudge tool. It lets us increase or decrease the color saturation in the image using the Smudge tool. The term saturation is nothing but the intensity or amount of color. This is the Smudge tool, and it's hidden in the Dodge tool. When you select the tool, you'll see the options, and they are similar to the Blur tool, except the Mode and Vibrance. The Mode option will help us pull out colors in the image. It can be desaturate or saturate. Desaturate will dilute the color saturation, while saturate will intensify or pull the color saturation. The vibrance is nothing, but it minimizes the clipping for fully saturated or desaturated colors. Simply set the desired parameters for the options, and let's paint. Here you can see the changes in the image. Thus you can lighten, darken, or saturate an image using Dodge, Burn, and Smudge tools, respectively.